Today, we're going to take a look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151 and its top 15 pulls to see their market values and trends over the past year. We'll also take a look at some sealed product to see how it's performed as well.
So the very first card we're going to take a look at today is actually the Erica's Invitation Special Illustration Rare card. So around 8 months ago when we first started to see data for it, it was actually valued at $52.17. It has since taken an overall downward trend, with it getting less crazy probably towards around, we'll say December 25th, where it looks like it started to level off a little bit, but it has still since trended downwards. Its highest price was 1 year ago at $52.17, and its lowest price is actually where it is now at $17.20. Coming up next, we have the Venusaur EX Full Art card. Around 8 months ago when we had data for this, it was valued at $9.07, and it did the rare thing where actually the card value goes up after pre-release / the release date, where on October 16th it hit a value of $19.20. It since had some minor ups and downs, hitting a peak of $22.08 on February 5th, but has since found its stability now at $17.30. Coming up next, we have the Pikachu Illustration Rare card. Around 8 months ago when we first saw data for this, it was valued at $18.60. Had a big spike in its value on October 2nd, hitting a value of $23.92, fell back down to $15.29, and has had a lot of ups and downs, with the peaks and troughs getting smaller and smaller. And right now it looks like it's found its stability and it'll probably stay around the $18 mark, as it's listed now at $18.05. Then coming up next, we have the Mew EX Full Art card. Around 8 months ago, this card was valued at $25.02. It fell down a little bit to $20.92, went back up to $23.90, but it hit its low here on December 11th at $16.98. Had a bit of a rebound back up, but looks like it's going to be at a stable price of $19.78. It'll probably linger around the $20 mark for a little bit. Coming up next, we have the Blastoise EX Full Art card. Around 8 months ago, this card was valued at $15.26, and similar to the Venusaur EX Full Art card, actually went up in value after pre-release / release, where on October 16th it hit a value of $21.35. It's since had some small peaks and troughs, with waves falling up and down. It hit its yearly high at $24.84 on February 19th, has since fallen back down, but looks like it'll be stable at around the $20 mark. Coming up next, we have the Charmeleon Illustration Rare card. On September 18th, it was valued at $18.65. It looks like it's had some big peaks and troughs, with some falls and rises, hitting its yearly high on November 20th at $22.67, and its low was on September 25th at $16.55. Right now it's at $22.11, and it looks like it's going to be stable at this price for a little bit. Coming up next is the Squirtle Illustration Rare. On September 18th, it had a value of $22.53 and had a bit of a fall afterwards to $19.25, but rose back up to $24.95. It looks like it's had some short peaks and troughs, hitting its yearly high on January 8th at $30.23, and its low was definitely on September 25th at $19.25. Right now, it's at a value of $22.09, where it'll likely stay around that price, similar to the Charmeleon we just looked at. Coming up next, we have the Bulbasaur Illustration Rare. On September 18th, this card was valued at $17.94. It hit its high on October 9th at $27.48, and its low was definitely on September 25th at $16.13. It looks like it's had some big rises and big falls, but right now it looks like it's going to be stable at around the $25 mark, as it's currently valued at $24.67. The next card we're going to take a look at is the Charmander Illustration Rare. On September 18th, this card was valued at $36.08, which also happens to be its yearly high. Its yearly low is at $21.99 on September 25th, and it's currently sitting at a value of $28.44. It looks like it's had its value hold its place for quite some time during some periods over here on the graph, but it looks like now we'll see that similar trend where it'll probably sit around the $28/$29 mark. Coming up next, we have the Alakazam Special Illustration Rare. On September 18th, this card was valued at $41.67, which happens to also be its yearly high. It's since seen an overall trend downwards, hitting some peaks and troughs, but again, just trending downwards where it hit its low on March 18th at $26.02. It's currently valued at $30.52, where it looks like it'll hold its value for a little bit. Coming up next, we have the Charizard EX Full Art card. On September 18th, this card was valued at $31.78. The next week, it hit its low at $26.16. However, it's had an overall trend upwards with some wider gaps in its rise and falls in its value, but it does hit its yearly high on February 5th at $39.47. It does trend downwards though, but it looks like right now it's going to be stable at around the $33 mark, where right now it's at $33.29. Coming up next, we have the Zapdos EX Special Illustration Rare card. On September 18th, this card was valued at $46.20, which actually happens to be its yearly high as well. Then it does have some peaks and troughs, kind of staying around that point, but it does ultimately start to trend downwards after its rise on February 5th to $39.89. Then it looks like it just takes a dive a little bit, where right now it's leveled off at $35.01. The next card we're going to take a look at is the Venusaur EX Special Illustration Rare. On September 18th, this card had a value of $41.20. Then on October 9th, it did go up to $46.33. It's had some rise and fall in its prices, where it hit its yearly high on November 13th at $47.10. And its low is definitely recently on April 22nd at $35.85. It did have a rebound back up, but it looks like it's going to stable off at $41.41 where it is now. So we'll probably say around the $41 to the $42 mark. The second last card we'll take a look at is the Blastoise EX Special Illustration Rare card. On September 18th, this card had a value of $50.76. Went down to $45.69 on September 25th, but it rose back up to $56.62 on October 2nd, which also happens to be its yearly high. Overall though, it did go downwards, where on December 4th, it hit its low of $41.85, and its yearly low was actually on April 22nd, again similar to the Venusaur EX, at $40.95. Looks like now it's going to be stable at around the $45 mark, with its current value of $44.87. And the final card we're going to take a look at today is the Charizard EX Special Illustration Rare. On September 18th, it had a value of $132.72. It dropped down on September 25th to $109.83. Its overall biggest value for the year is on November 13th at $134.98, and its lowest value throughout the year is on April 1st at $102.62. It's right now sitting at $104.30, so just barely above its yearly low, and I imagine it'll probably stay here for a little bit unless we see another reprint of Pokemon 151.
Now we're going to go ahead and quickly take a look at the sealed product for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151.
So starting off, we're going to take a look at the booster bundle. So the booster bundle comes with 6 packs and 6 packs only. On June 19th, which is as far back as we have data for, had a value of $39.94. It did go down to $31.94, but rose up to its yearly high on August 28th at $48.54. It does look like on July 3rd, its yearly low was $31.94, but now it probably has a average value of $38.21, where I imagine the price will stay for a little bit, depending on if we see a reprint or not, and depending on if demand goes up, which I feel like it will if we don't see a reprint. Coming up next, we have the 151 binder collection. So the binder collection actually comes with 4 Pokemon Scarlet and Violet packs, as well as 1 binder with 29 pocket pages. So on June 19th, this had a value of $39.89. However, it did have an overall downward trend, pretty massively actually, till it hit its yearly low here on September 11th at $26.51. However, the next week, September 18th, it actually jumps up to $37.14, and it has had an overall resurgence in its value, where it's currently sitting at $37.79. And its high, which one would be its high? Yeah, I guess its high would be on June 19th at $39.89, but it does look like it got really close to there on January 22nd at $39.55. Coming up next, we have a 151 Elite Trainer box. So the ETB comes with 9 booster packs, 1 full art foil promo card featuring Snorlax. It's a very great card. Then of course it comes with 65 card sleeves, 45 energy cards, the player's guide, 6 damage counter dice, 1 competition legal coin flip, 2 plastic condition markers, a collection box, yada yada yada. Anyways, July 3rd it had a value of $63.16. It did have a massive drop downwards where it hit its low for the time at $51.37. Went back up a little bit, $59.28, but here we have its low on January 1st at $46.74. However, it did have an overall upward trend where now it's sitting at its high of $63.20. The second last product we'll take a look at is the exclusive 151 Pokemon Center ETB from the PokemonCenter.com. So essentially it comes with the same stuff as the regular ETB, except this one comes with 11 booster packs, and it even comes with a full art promo card featuring Snorlax with a Pokemon Center logo on it. So around the August 21st mark, it actually had a value of $150, and it hit its high soon after that on September 11th at $157.14. It has since had an overall trend downwards, hitting its low here on December 4th at $82.78. However, it does cross back over the $100 mark threshold on March 4th, going to $101.46, and it's currently stable at $103.11. And now the last product we'll look at is the 151 UPC, or the Ultra Premium Collection Box. So 1 year ago, around the June 19th mark, again, not really a year ago, but it had a value of $139.73 and went up actually on June 26th to $156.05. It did trend downwards after that, but did shoot back up in August to $157.76, which is definitely its yearly high. However, again, trends back downwards where it hit its low probably around here on November 27th at $94.56. Does trend back upwards slightly and crosses back over that $100 threshold, where now it sits at $106.49, where it'll probably remain unless we see a big reprint.
So that's the data for the top 15 most valuable cards of Pokemon Scarlet Violet 151, and we also took a look at 5 sealed products for that set as well. What do you think of the values that we looked at? Do you expect to see any of the singles go up or down? Do you expect to see any of the sealed product go up or down? Considering how the Japanese 151 set had a big reprint recently, if the English one does as well, I can definitely see, well, it's almost a given that a lot of these values will tank downwards. However, if it doesn't have a big reprint, I could definitely see the value only going up from here. No matter what, with 151, I do feel like the value is bound to go up, even if we do get a reprint. However, it's just a matter of how soon the value goes up, if that makes sense. So if we don't get a reprint, I do think in the next year, maybe 2 years, we'll see a big spike in its prices. However, I also feel like if we do get a reprint, we might just have to wait a little bit longer. So maybe 3 to 4 years to actually see, or the end of the Scarlet and Violet era, which is probably sooner than later, but to actually see 151 reach its full potential in value, or at least to see those gains start to begin. What do you think? I'd love to know your thoughts down below.